loose.
Oh, you can cut this
It's
out,
recording
right?
right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you ready?
We're ready.
All right. Hi, I'm author Shannon Reber, and this is the Lit Chicks podcast. And today we are here. So
We are here, and we're thinking a lot about St. Patrick's Day, so we have a lot of things to talk about.
don't forget to introduce yourself first, though, just in case.
Anybody doesn't know. Mary Ellen Humphrey, author, retired author, writer, all kinds of, anything to do with writing, that's me.
And I'm Susan Landrigan, and I am an author, writer, also, and retired.
Oh, wow. We're in a good group here.
Well, I'm self-employed, so I don't count as a retired person.
So on the topic of Irish and St. Patrick's, which you can guess we're all kind of thinking about, you
What?
have
You
a
think we
perfect,
are?
you have a perfect series for this. Can you tell us about it?
It's the Through the Mist series is Irish mythology wrapped around urban fantasy, wrapped around a little bit of epic fantasy, but it's basically a woman is trying to figure out who she is. She's a foster child. Oh, she was when she was a kid. She was a foster child, and she doesn't remember her life before she was 8 years old. And she starts her foster sisters are killed in a plane crash, and she starts having these dreams about Irish people and terrible, horrible things happening. And she's trying to figure this out, and the story basically revolves around her figuring out who she is and how Irish she really, really is. And then the world just kind of goes downhill from there.
Oh.
Of course.
How many books in the series?
I'm working on book 15 right now, and it will be out for St. Patrick's Day.
I can't imagine writing 15 books in a series.
It's not actually books, it's short stories.
Oh, okay.
It's a serialized novel.
Oh, okay.
So in total, I believe it'll be about 750 pages.
So if
in
someone
total.
wants to read this, how do they do that?
Amazon, Jonas Bookshop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they go to Amazon, they just put in Through the Mist,
Shannon Reber.
Shannon Reber.
Yep.
Wow, that sounds interesting. I actually have an Irish story
Hey.
to share. And I was telling you earlier that I did that DNA thing years ago, and it's like 96% Irish, European, whatever. Which
You
is,
gotta start drinking whiskey now, though.
I-
I mean, it's very important to be Irish and drink whiskey.
It's true, but even wine is hard for me. So anyway, I have many different projects, but one of my projects I did, this huge book that you can see here, is a family history. And this wonderful man named Reginald Holt Humphrey, who passed away at the age of 98, spent his life researching our genealogy. And about 20 years ago, or a little more, I had some spare time, and I said, if you send me all the stuff that you've researched, I'll put it into a book. And so this 600-page book is a labor of love, his and mine.
Wow.
And
It's a big book.
it is a big book.
It's huge.
And it's interesting because around 1989, my husband and I purchased a parcel of property on an island in Birch Island in Harpswell, Maine. And it's like this horseshoe-shaped island, 110 acres. And unknown at the time that we had a connection to my relatives, and I discovered that in reading Reg's book.
Very cool.
So there was this fellow named Walter Merriman who was shanghaied in Dublin, Ireland,
Ooh.
around 1700. He was a young man, and back then, approximately 1,500 young men were shanghaied or kidnapped to serve on ships to come over.
Oh,
Yeah, and so
interesting.
and they did it by drugging them or tricking them or whatever. So something happened, and he was kidnapped and became a sailor and came across, and a fellow by the name of Simonton paid his passage, which is another way of saying, now I own you. And he had to work for 7 years to pay back the cost of being kidnapped and shipped across the ocean, and he learned the shipbuilder's trade from this man.
Ah.
And so he and this man are known for being very strong Presbyterians. Whatever. And back at that time in the 1700s, a lot of our government in New England was kind of religious. It was deacons, it was, these pious men. And so he married a lady named Elizabeth Potter, and they built a farm in Harpswell, Maine. And his son, Hugh Merriman, married Delight Bailey, and they had a farm on Birch Island.
Wait, her name is Delight?
Delight. Isn't
That's
that a delightful
fun.
name?
I like it.
So Delight and Hugh settled on Birch Island around the mid-1700s, and they built a farm. And now the island is only accessible by water, even to this day. And so if you were a sailor or you were traveling, a lot of times the weather is bad or whatever, you stopped at the Merriman farm. And they were very hospitable, and they were known far and wide for their hospitality. Well, we bought this property, we built a cottage on this property, and there was a cellar hole a stone's throw from our door. And a historian came along over the years, and he explained that that cellar hole was the location of the Merriman farm. And so in my very first book, which was published in 1997, there's a photograph of me standing in that cellar hole. So I wanted to share that because I think the connections that we have sometimes we don't even know about.
That's very cool.
Which drew us to this island. I mean, I loved this place. I felt so at home there. I would go there by myself. I'd take the boat out and I'd spend a week, and I'd just sit there and write and walk through the fields of ferns and collect driftwood and go to this old cellar hole
That's
where
amazing.
my ancestors lived. So I just wanted to share that Irish
fun.
story. So it'll have something Irish about me.
Well, actually, I just looked it up this morning because I knew this already, but I didn't know the full story. St. Patrick, with it being on Sunday, he actually was a slave in Ireland, and then he came back after I believe he escaped, and he came back as a missionary. And that was where the legends of St. Patrick came from, was because, slave freed, went back to Britain and then back to Ireland.
Apparently there was a lot of hazards for young people back then, especially being kidnapped and being forced into being a sailor. And,
Yeah.
and you weren't the high sailor, you were the low sailor.
Exactly.
You did the
grunt.
the drudgery.
grunt work.
I
Yes,
think
yes.
they had a word for it, but it wasn't a very nice one. So they didn't get paid. They had to pay their passage. Thank you very much for kidnapping me. Now I'll pay you for doing it. But I just thought it was interesting. And another thing that we discovered, or I discovered through this research that my cousin had done. So Reginald he was cousins with my father, and it was my father's grandfather who married the Helena Merriman. And so that's the genealogy. So it would be like my great-great-grandparents. And I was going to say something important, and forgive me, it's my brain deciding it's said enough for a while.
We're showing our age.
Yeah.
Oh,
But anyway, it was really interesting to see that connection, and over the years to have those kind of odd things come back.
That's very
You
cool,
may not
yeah.
even know you've crossed paths with your ancestors and their spirits.
That's
Maybe
true.
they're
That is so true.
guiding you. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, the thing with St. Patrick too, though, was there are different legends that I believe they say he brought like 33 people back to life. Yeah. But the biggest one that I have heard for years is that St. Patrick actually drove all the snakes from Ireland.
I've heard that
but-
one before.
Yeah, exactly. But the fantasy version of this is an Irish dragon actually looks like a snake. They don't have wings. So an Irish dragon is just basically a gigantic snake. And so the legend is that St. Patrick is the reason there are no dragons in Ireland.
Oh boy. I think snakes.
Thank you, St. Patrick.
I think snakes get a bad rap because they do some pretty important things like keeping the mice population down.
That's
and,
true.
I read somewhere that
They eat the things you don't want.
yeah, so they keep some of those rodents that spread the plague and stuff, you know, like cats do. That was one of the legends. I don't know if it's true, but I had read that a pope had said cats were evil, so they killed all the cats, and then the rodents and rats went wild, and then that's how the plague spread.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
you have to be careful when you.
You gotta be careful listening to popes, I guess.
Oh, you gotta be careful about condemning these cute little kitties. I mean, come on.
And the snakes, too. Don't forget those.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
are cat lovers.
Yes, yes. Can you imagine? That's just a terrible thing. My poor kitties.
I'm an animal lover in general, but I'm not a huge reptile fan. But I'm not afraid of them. I'm just, you know, I don't want to snuggle with one. So
Yeah.
that's all there is to it.
People have phobias, and I think that's an interesting thing when you're writing.
Yeah.
Like if you think about some of the most scary movies, the pit of snakes, or the spiders that fall on you, or
Mhm.
the things that creep you out in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I think that we can take the Irish year round. So we have it.
I drink Irish whiskey all
Yeah.
year round.
Yeah, maybe I can try that. Will anyone guide me home?
Yes, I will guide you.
A little Irish mist in your coffee.
Bailey's is amazing in coffee. All right, fine. I need to stop talking about alcohol.
Well, that's an interesting question, because I don't know if you've read some of the authors, like Ernest Hemingway, for example,
Yes.
who drank a lot when they wrote.
Yes, he did. Right sober, edit. Wait, no. Right drunk, edit sober. That was
Do
Hemingway's.
you really think that's a
thing.
good rule?
No. I usually drink when I'm editing because I'm so frustrated.
But how about this
Editing
plan?
is hard.
Editing is hard.
How about a different plan? How about my reward is this wonderful fancy drink after I finish this?
That is generally my reward, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I can't really relate because I'm a tea drinker.
Well, I mean, you can have a lovely cup of tea.
Yes, I'll put a little extra chai in it. and
Yes,
that'll be
there you
my-
go.
there you go.
Perfect.
My reward for finishing whatever. Well, speaking of finishing, sometimes it's really hard. Do you have any, like, ideas of what you do when you hit the wall? Have you heard the term "hit the wall"?
Yes.
Writing a book.
Oh, I actually did hit the wall around probably September, and that was when I started working on a different book. So that for me, I'm very ADHD in my writing. So there's always a story. There's always a story. So I have to basically try and force myself to focus on one. And if it's not working, then I just move on to a different one. I actually have five books that I vary between,
You don't get
depending on my
confused
mood.
on the characters in each book, or
No, actually, I have a list of characters and usually a
Okay.
picture.
Okay.
I
Okay.
almost always have a picture
Okay.
of someone
I have,
that looks like
I have
it.
a picture of a lady named Rita. It's a picture from like 1940s, just this most sophisticated lady. And I got to write her story, but I haven't got her story yet. But I'm so fascinated. And sometimes a picture can inspire a
Yes,
story. It's
yes,
amazing.
exactly, exactly.
I think I want to share this with you because it's an ingredient in a novel. So one of the most important ingredients in a novel, and this is not from me, this is from Bryce Courtney, who is an Australian writer and international novelist. And he said the most important ingredient in a novel, in writing a novel, is bum glue. Okay.
Oh,
I like it.
So, what is bum glue?
It glues your bum to the chair, correct?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Glue your bum to a chair and write the book.
I like it. I like it.
So sometimes that's the answer. You might
Yes.
not be able to write it well, but you got to write it. And
You
then
gotta write
can
it,
go
and
back.
then you go back and edit
And you can go
and
back
pull
and
your
edit.
hair out while
Yes.
editing.
So
Yes.
if you don't remember anything else, remember bum glue.
Remember bum glue. Yes, there you go. That is our tip for the day.
And speaking of tips for the day, what about words for the day?
oh yes, we have a word for the day today. Our word for the day is ulterior. Describes things, usually motives, objectives, reasons, agendas, etc., that are kept hidden in order to achieve a particular result.
So
Like
we
it.
like that when we're writing.
Yes.
Ulterior motives are the best.
Yes.
It's almost like
Mhm.
subtext or backstory or you know,
Exactly.
reading the character's mind, like,
Yes.
Yes.
well, I think,
Don't forget though, you have to use it in a sentence today. That's the whole rule of word of the day. You have to use it in a sentence.
okay, you go first.
Everybody has ulterior motives in my books.
Mhm.
Susan?
What's my ulterior motive today?
We've got to give Gunter back his hat. So my ulterior motive is to have a non-naked gargoyle in your front yard.
I think we both had the ulterior motive of getting me to wear something besides blue.
I think you're right. So
Yep.
yes, we're trying to broaden your horizons.
Well, you did. You certainly did.
Your blue is lovely.
Thank you. Well, green.
You
So
stepped
is your
out of your
green.
comfort zone.
So is
Yeah,
your
I'm
yes.
getting a rash. Well, that's okay. Well, thank you. I think we had a good time today.
I think we did
We want to
too.
welcome feedback. Anybody, you have a question on, you obviously can tell we know what we're doing.
Oh, totally. Absolutely.
If you have
Yes.
suggestions of what you would like us to talk about,
Yeah, and we're very, we have a wide range of interests, so we can talk about anything. Anything to do with writing, publishing, we can talk about our adventures in this wonderful world. And most importantly, encourage you to write your stories, even if it's a family history or this amazing mystery that
Hey.
Irish mythology.
Mythology. Yes, yes, yes.
And your wonderful stories, and I think even for, hold on, I gotta turn off this thing.
our timer went off. Time's up.
It says, sorry about that. Don't leave me with technology. You can do the timing next time. So with that, we are done.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Perfect. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.